The Equalizer 2. With any sequel in the world, the prerogative is to go big and to change things and to do something different. You can tell that the director is trying to do something a bit different, make it bigger, make the film more about the things that Denzel Washington's character used to do and less about the individual people that he's helping. However, the start of this film starts off with him helping individual people, and it is pointed out, didn't he want to look at the bigger picture, stop helping just random people? And then the person who delivers that line is murdered, and is someone very close to him, and he goes on a vendetta to find out who did it, and it turns out that there is something very sinister going on in the world that he used to be a part of. I really, really enjoyed the first Equalizer because it was so contained. It kind of felt real and had a lot of stakes involved, but I liked how down to earth it was. From the get-go with the Equalizer 2, the opening scene where he's on a train and he fights these people who are going to Turkey, he's in disguise and he attacks these guys. Anyway, turns out that he's trying to rescue a girl for a person who owns a bookstore back home. And so it's like a nice opener. It's, you know, it gets you straight, you know, the first one, it bubbled and bubbled and bubbled and raised to this action scene. Whereas this one is straight out the gate, there's an action scene, but it doesn't have any real connection to the rest of the plot. And then it gets into the other part of the plot, which is the fact that he's a taxi driver and he's giving people lifts. And he's got an old man who's giving a lift, and that old man has a backstory. And then there's this woman who gets dropped off in his car who's intoxicated and drugged up, and then there's a little story aside to that happens. There's lots of other things. There's this gentleman that he runs into who is an artist, and he's trying to build him up. And there are so many different little plot lines, but they all don't really coalesce with the main plot that is there. And I think it's because the director realised that the main plot doesn't have a great amount of legs, and so they have to have all these other things going on, and it's like he's multitasking the shit out of his life, yet he's managing to figure out this big overarching story that's part of it. It left me a bit cold. It felt a bit disjointed. It didn't feel joined up enough. This being the second one, the second film's always the kind of the big task in carrying an audience forward with your character. The first one was, you know, an introduction. It was really cool. It was different. And now in the second one, you're seeing repetitions of what happened in the first one, but they're in a different environment or they're at a different scale. And this one, it gets deeper into the stuff that we saw with the Bill Pullman character and him going to their house, and this woman who she's got a high up position, and basically the story revolves around her and him and their relationship. Basically, there are people trying to clean out these other assassins, and it's interesting, but then it doesn't feel as plausible as what happened in the first film. One of the standouts in this film is obviously the presence of Pedro Pascal, who at this time, when this film came out, was just rising to fame. There is this reuniting between Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington. I didn't buy a lot of it, and that doesn't come down to their acting or something like that. I just thought the writing wasn't there. It was trying to move things along. There had been, I felt like there was too much establishment of all these other things at the beginning. Like the chunk at the beginning of the film is all about these individual people and him helping them. And then it gets into the meat and potatoes of the main plot. But it takes a long time to get to that point. So you don't feel this connection between the two of them. However, it gets towards the end and there is this big set piece. So Denzel Washington's character, Robert, used to live in a town on a seafront, and they have this big standoff in this town when there's a storm coming in. And it makes for a nice set piece, but the way that they get there, I don't know if I wasn't paying enough attention, but I don't know how they got there or why it was necessary to be there. Like, they knew the places they were in, and there's this kind of hunt down, which is really cool. Like, it's a good part of the film. However, because of the environment that they're in, like the storm being around, there's a lot of CGI to help it. Some of the moments have interaction with waves coming in, and there are moments where it's like really off. There are others where it's pretty good and it's a cool setup, but I was thinking the whole time, they've used CGI to like really try and enhance this and make it work for their blocking. I didn't really buy it. So I got to the end of the film and I thought, although there was some memorable stuff, I think the more interesting part of it was the beginning. You know, I got a bit groany because it's like, oh, he's going to be helping like other random people. There's going to be a core thing that comes out of helping one of those people. And that's how the film's going to develop. And it didn't. It pivots and does something different. However, I felt like him meeting this guy who's an artist who nearly gets pulled into a gang was actually a more interesting part of it. And this guy consequently gets involved in the bigger story, but he's just held hostage really and used as a bargaining chip. It was kind of interesting. There were things that worked and there were things that didn't. Because the first one was a well-worn idea using some new ways to look at it, I thought it was really cool. Because it's the second outing of this, they brought in a lot of stuff from the first that worked, but then introduced this bigger story that took him to bigger places. And he went, you know, the opener is just him on a train, you know, so it's obviously going bigger, but then it shrinks down again and then it expands out a bit. I just don't feel like that was necessary, and I just wasn't as intrigued or involved in this. Like the bad guy, I thought in the first one was a lot more compelling and so searingly good to watch, whereas in this one it just wasn't as compelling for me. I'm hoping for better from the third. We'll see. I don't have the highest hopes, but we'll see. So yeah, that's my review of The Equalizer 2. I thought it was a bit underwhelming in comparison to the first. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. It's always really good to hear. If you like this video, obviously please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. On to the third one. See you on that one. Bye.